Welcome to the ThunderCast, your Marshall Athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hugnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. You can follow us on Twitter at ThunderCast_pod and watch the show on the ThunderCast YouTube channel and listen everywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. What an unbelievable turn of events on Saturday. Neither one of us felt too good about this game going in. And I don't know about you, but most of my feelings about not feeling great about this one was coming off of the defensive effort that we got coming from the Louisiana game, and how kind of potent that this Old Dominion offense was. And it just didn't feel like it's set up to be a very good matchup. And it really couldn't have gone much better for the herd. And we're going to get into that. And I say that and I really feel that, even though the score ends up being 48-24, I feel like it couldn't have gone much better for the herd. But I want to get into all of it because I don't think I've been this glad to be completely wrong in a really, really long time. And I mean, hell, who wouldn't want to talk about being wrong in this way? Because what a way to be wrong. But Russ, if you wouldn't mind, let's pay a couple bills and get a word from our sponsors at Leasure Oliver PLLC.
If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Find them at 304carwreck.com.
Well, it was a 48-24 victory, a very convincing victory for the herd. This was one of those games like we talked about in the preview about the Indiana and Old Dominion game and how that one really didn't seem as close as the score indicated. I don't feel like this one was either. And we'll get into that a little bit. The herd is now 3-3 on the season, 1-1 in the Sun Belt Conference. I think this gave a little bit of a glimpse of what Marshall can actually be in the Sun Belt if they're playing to their potential. Marshall, of course, now 10-1 all time against Old Dominion and a perfect 6-0 in Huntington, West Virginia. I don't know what it is, but the herd just seems to have the Monarchs number, and it's not, you can't really point to any one thing. They've got their number. The indicators in this one prove that this was really Marshall's game from beginning to end. And for those of you that were at the game, the rest of us watched on TV, you kind of got that vibe too, that Marshall controlled this game from beginning to end. I don't think they ever trailed. Did they ever trail? I don't think they did.
No, it was tied once.
Briefly? Yeah. Like a 7-7 tie.
For a couple of minutes.
Yeah. But never trailed in this one, so you can't really say they led wire to wire, but they never trailed in this one, which is just as important to me. First win of the Sun Belt era first Sun Belt win of the Tony Gibson era. This bye week really was great for the herd. You got a little bit of that from Tony Gibson himself, talking about how they got some schematic things right. They needed it from a healing up standpoint. The injury report didn't really get better for the herd in this game. The guys that were out remained out, but I think it was more of those nicks and dings that they wanted to get guys back closer to 100%. And now it's Tony Gibson's birthday, so he's celebrating a birthday gift with this big win. I think it raised a lot of eyebrows around Sun Belt circles with the convincing fashion of this win. Russ, you were there. You hosted a huge tailgate with a lot of folks. I was able to watch some of ThunderCast live, and there were even more people there than I thought were going to be there. So talk about the weekend and talk about the tailgate and talk about the whole thing, really.
Yeah, I wish we had set up a second camera so like everyone that was there at the tailgate was off camera, I even mentioned, early on at noon, the west lot, man, looked empty, but it started filling in. And definitely after that, by the time the Thunder Walk was over, it was packed over there. Gorgeous day, great day for football. Couldn't really have asked for anything better. I mean, a great herd victory, a good tailgate, and great weather.
Yeah. It's like the trifecta, the early/mid October trifecta in Huntington.
Mm-hmm.
Great game, great tailgate, great football, big win. It's not too much more you can ask for. Of course, I want to say shout out to our buddies, the Monarchists, that made the trip, the Old Dominion podcasting crew that is pretty much like our peer equal. You know, they do for Old Dominion what we do for the herd, and it was great. Those guys made the trip, got on cam a little bit, and you talked to those guys. Surprise visit from Big G on the tailgate show. ThunderCast Live powered by Ignite.link. Got a little bit of words from the AD, which is always super cool. Big time giveaway that we've been working towards for a couple of weeks now. And gosh, what else? What else did I miss? What else?
Brett Riffey hit my arm twice. That was severely damaged Friday night from a bad fall. My back and head and elbow are all hurt pretty bad. Brett didn't know that, and he came up and smacked me right in there, and I was like, "No, man, I'm injured there." So he grabbed it and hurt it even worse.
Well,
we had our friends from England.
Oh yeah,
the Emmett family had Maddie's grandparents on her mom's side, and then parents Richard and Emma, and big brother Ollie that's getting ready to turn 21. So they got to get that Huntington and Marshall feel and vibe, and that was cool. And also, you mentioned the Monarchists, and technically Justice is not part of the Monarchists. He's an ODU fan, but he covers Marshall on his show, the G5 Hive, as much as he covers ODU, because they cover all of the G5 schools. So he wasn't on camera because we were going to get him on, but when Big G stops by, you know, he's got a certain window of time. He's out there trying to talk to all the different tailgaters and Marshall fans and things to try to keep his finger on the pulse of the fans and heat check and everything. So we kind of had to bump down the Monarchists, which they understood, and Justice, you know, I just didn't have time to get him on with everything else. But amazing tailgate, and of course brought to you by Landscaping by Hillcrest, and also Jed with Ignite.link for producing and making it all possible.
Yeah, it was a really cool, looked like a really cool vibe there, man. This is one that I wished I would have been able to be a part of, like live, like at the game. It looked really cool. I don't get FOMO very often because now I'm just kind of used to not being on the lots, and it sucks. You know, there's always a certain amount of jealousy that comes along with that. But this past Saturday looked particularly like a day that I wanted to be there. But great weekend all around. Let's talk about the game now. 48-24. Like I mentioned, let's talk about these indicators. Looks like I mean, they're all important. We talk about 6 big indicators. They're all really big metrics to usually who's going to win a game. And the herd went 4 for 6 out of them, and it could have been almost 5 out of 6, but you'll see. Total yards, time of possession, first downs, third downs, penalties, and turnovers. The total yardage, 449 for the herd, 439 for Old Dominion. Time of possession was dominated by the herd, 36 minutes, 35 seconds to just 23-25 for Old Dominion. First downs, a convincing edge by the herd, 22-15. Penalties, third downs, the herd gets edged out just barely. 4 of 14 for Old Dominion, 4 of 15 for the herd, so edge. Monarchs, penalties, again, was kind of not nearly as disparity as Louisiana, but the herd's trending badly. That really needs to get under control a little bit better. Saw some big all-offensive holding penalties at key moments in the game, so clean up a few here and there, and you're really looking good. But 5 penalties for just 27 yards for Old Dominion, 8 for 70 for the herd, and then turnovers. 0 turnovers for the herd and 5 freaking turnovers for Old Dominion. A handful of turnovers really kept them from being able to gain any sustained momentum whatsoever. And to the herd's credit, they capitalized on those. They really, really did. And if for no other, a lot of times they put points on the board, but if for no other reason, they kept time of possession for a while and kept Colton Joseph off the field, which was both of our number one key to victory, which we'll revisit in a minute. Let's talk about the players and what they did. I'll get a little bit of a commentary from you, but I know, like always, you want to save it for the grades. So let me get through them. Carlos Del Rio Wilson, 17 of 24 for 219 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air. 17 carries for a career high 95 yards on the ground, good for 5.6 yards per carry, and another 2 touchdowns on the ground with a long run of 24. That means he had 314 total yards by himself with 4 touchdowns and no turnovers. Antoine Roberts is the leader in the clubhouse from a running back standpoint, 14 carries for 67 yards and a touchdown. Actually kind of had 2. One got called back, so he still got his first career touchdown twice in the game. Long of 26 on that one. Floyd Lacey leads the clubhouse in receptions and receiving yards again. 8 receptions, 121 yards, and a touchdown, good for 15.1 yards per reception with a long of 52. And Mike Allen put in a great all-around game, 2 receptions for 55 yards and a touchdown, a long of 49 and a 27.5 yard per reception average, 11 carries for 37 yards on the ground. Notes on this one, of course, 5 offensive touchdowns, 2 pass and 3 on the ground. Great balance in this one, Russ. 227 rush yards, 222 pass yards. And the Herd absolutely dominated the second and third quarters in this game with a combined score of 34-3 in this one. Defensively, Jabril El-Amin, 7 total tackles, 2 solo. Kerryon Martin, 7 total tackles, 1 solo, half a tackle for loss, and half a sack. Cam Smith chips in 6 tackles, 1 solo, and a pass defended. Then you got 4 guys, all with 5 total tackles. Daquan Smith, Boogie Trotter, JaVale Gilmore, Daryl Sweeting all get 5 total tackles. Smith and Trotter 3 solo each. Gilmore and Sweeting 1 solo each. Smith adds half a tackle for loss and an interception. Boogie Trotter adds 1 full tackle for loss, an interception, which was a 22-yard pick six. He also had a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, and a pass defended. Dude needed a sack, and he would have hit the defensive cycle, in my opinion. JaVale Gilmore adds 1.5 tackles for loss and gets a sack, and Daryl Sweeting gets 1 tackle for loss. Impact plays across this one for the Herd, 6 total tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 3 passes defended, 2 interceptions, a forced fumble, and 3 fumble recoveries. 2 of those are on the special team side of things, and that's a great segue. Lorcan Quinn goes 2 of 3 on field goals with a long of 46 and 6 of 6 on extra points. Nathan Totten, 6 punts for 231 total yards, 38.5 average, a long of 54. He gets 1 touchback and 2 inside the 20. 2 fumble recoveries by Zane Porter. I want to go back for a second and give you the notes on this Herd defense. They allowed just 24 points, which was 12 points less than Old Dominion's season average to this point. 439 yards they allowed, which was nearly 60 yards below the Old Dominion average. But the best one to me, I think, they gave up 4.6 yards per carry, which doesn't blow you away. But when you come into the game facing the number 1 team in the country in yards per carry, which was nearly 7.5 yards per carry, you hold them to nearly half of that, a little more than half of that. That's a really, really great day. Last thing was, aside from a couple of chunk plays early, Old Dominion got a couple of garbage time TDs when this game was well in hand. So those stats got padded just a little bit. Otherwise, the Herd defensive ones played lights out in this game. Russ, let's revisit those keys to victory. Number 1 key to victory for both of it was limit Colton Joseph. What do you got?
Yeah, big check there. He hurt himself a little bit with some overthrows, which we'll talk about here in a little bit with the grades. But other than the one real long breakaway, which I think it was Wody chased him down and saved a touchdown. Other than that, he didn't do damage to us on the ground, which, is a huge part of his game. Very athletic, great runner. He had us a couple of times beat and just kind of overthrew him. But I feel like that's a full stop when they only scored 10 points until halfway through the fourth quarter or even further, where they tacked on the other 2. So I'm not saying just contain and limit. I'm saying they full on stopped him. They get a check.
Yeah, and that's something. Those are the adjectives that we kind of bickered about just a little bit. It's like, I don't think they can stop him. I thought they just had to limit. They stopped him. And I'm talking about the 2 touchdowns late in the game. This one's well in hand. It's freaking, what is it?
48-10.
48-10 at this point. The defense has mass substitutions. Guys are getting some game speed, PT, which is much needed, and they moved the ball down the field a couple of times. So outside of an early long chunk touchdown pass where there's a little aggressiveness to maybe try to get that second interception real quick, and the one long chunk play run, that's kind of really it. They were not slicing and dicing this defense at all. Great bounce back performance.
They had one other run. I think it was in the second quarter where the ODU running back hurdled our guy after he was already in the open field. So I mean, 3 chunk plays, maybe 4. But I mean, much longer than 20. That first pass of their first drive was big, but they just did not connect on any of the others.
Yeah, but even when outside of the I think it was 72-yard pass touchdown, even when you get some movement, some drives going, the Herd comes up with 4th down stops several times and just ends any type of drive right then and there. So absolute big time check mark on this one. This is probably Joseph's worst game of the season. Maybe I don't know if you can include Indiana in that. You can't, because you talked about the 2 chunk plays that really were 150 some of his 170 some
153 out of 179 came on 2 different touchdown runs.
So let's call it his second worst game of the season in fairness. And it's not like he killed himself. The Herd defense just had his number today. My number 2, what was your number 2 key to victory?
Put up points, and I'm going to give a huge check mark to that.
Yeah, 48 points will do it most of the time. I said my number 2 key to victory was CDRW had to have an SBC Offensive Player of the Week type performance. I think you're going to have a pretty strong case for him doing that in this head-to-head matchup with one of the finer quarterbacks in the league to this point. 219 through the air and a couple of tutties, 95 on the ground, a couple more, no turnovers, 314 total yards, 4 touchdowns. I mean, this really says SBC Offensive Player of the Week, and a dominating win over a team that had a lot of momentum coming into this game. What was your number 3?
My number 3 was to play as a swarming defense without making the mistakes that have killed us. I feel like we were swarming, and a couple of times. I can remember one time early in the first quarter, I think it was, not early in the first quarter, but early in the game, first quarter, Boogie Trotter got Colton Joseph out with an open field tackle. And, if he broke loose from that, I think that was maybe a second or third down. That gives them first, and they're driving and things. We were swarming. Boogie with the interception, Wody with the interception. I feel like the only real bad thing was when we took maybe the wrong angle on that touchdown pass that they got, their first score, that we could have gotten that tackle there. We didn't even touch the guy because we kind of took the wrong angle. Good play by them, bad play by us, but I still give us a huge green check on that one for playing as a swarming defense without making the mistakes. We did not make too many mistakes on defense.
Yeah, no, my 3rd key to victory was also I said the defense had to pull their weight, and they way more than pulled their weight in this game. The 2 interceptions, the pick 6. I mean, Old Dominion just 1 of 4 on 4th downs, 4 of 14 on 3rd downs. It was really good defensive effort all around. I mean, honestly, I think this was probably top to bottom the best all-around team game of the season so far. And what a great time to get it, fresh off a bye week back at home. You're trying to get something going now, and you draw back even on the season. I don't know that some questions were answered, but I sure do hope they were, because they looked really, really good in this game. So huge check mark for the defense. I was very, very critical of them coming off the Louisiana game, and still a little bit critical of them going into this game in the preview. I just didn't have a lot of confidence that they would be able to stop this offense, and they absolutely were able to do that until the end when it didn't matter. And you've called the dogs off essentially. What was your number 4?
It was dominate the red zone, keep them at 3s instead of 7s and 0s instead of 3s. And I tell you, we kept them at 0s instead of 7s a couple of times. They were on the 5 once. They were on the 4 once. We had 2 big 4th down stops on those. we kept them in check when they got into the red zone. I don't have the stats overall for us and them, because this was a two-parter that in dominating the red zone, it was us on offense too, not just defense. So NCAA has not updated the stats yet. It'll be later today or probably tomorrow morning when they'll have those on there to see exactly what each team did in the red zone. I didn't have the time to go through and calculate it up myself, but big green check. We dominated the red zone in this one.
Yep, and my number 4 in this one was just find a way to win, because I thought it would be a lot tighter than it turned out to be. Of all the scenarios that this game could have been, I did not feel like a blowout win by Marshall was the one that was going to happen. So I felt like if you could keep it close, you could find a way to get a win, and they didn't have to do that. They never trailed in the game and were ahead big for most of the game. So they found their way early, and it was really with a pick six that got you off and running and probably put a little bit of like, what the hell, in the mind of Colton Joseph, because this just doesn't happen to me so far this season. And it did right out of the gate. And like you mentioned, he's missing throws that he probably usually hits. And then the Herd just keeps piling up points. They have a couple of muffed punts, and the Herd recovers those and puts points on the board. So it was just again, another hit. Old Dominion just couldn't get into the game. That was the way. Just dominating performance in all three phases was the way. Let's go to some grades, man. Let's talk about the quarterback, our guy, Carlos Del Rio-Wilson. Let me go back through it one more time. 17 of 24, 219 and 2 touchdowns, 17 on the ground for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns, 314 total yards, 4 total touchdowns, and no turnovers. What do you got for CDRW?
I'm giving him an A+. And the only thing, he had a couple of throws that were a little high or overthrown, but oh my goodness, wow, he had a couple of throws that, only one of those was really in any danger of getting picked off, and it would have taken a really good diving interception for that to have taken place. He took care of business. He ran this offense, and the offense all year under him has just continued to click. So A+ all around.
Yeah, this was an A+ game. The continual efficiency with the football, the continual protection of the football. I mean, this guy runs 10 to 20 times a game as a runner and taking care of the football. And that was the MO coming out of camp. He was having problems with turnovers, and that's the reason that was cited for him not being the opening day starter, and why he had to he wasn't even the second quarterback to get a start. And that has just totally disappeared so far as the starter for the Herd. This is an A+ game. Now the Herd has scored, 42 in 3 straight games, something like that. And I've seen a lot to be made about that. This is the first time since 2014 the Herd has scored 42 points, at least 42 in 3 consecutive games. So I went back and looked. The Herd actually scored 42 in 7 consecutive games in 2014, and that was to start the season. The first 7 games, they scored at least 42 points, and I think the 8th game was 38. So this is starting to draw some well-deserved comparisons to that really, really lethal Herd offense of 2014. If they can keep it up, fans take note and enjoy it, because listen to what we're talking about. This is 11, 12 years ago. This is the last time this happened. Some of our fans weren't even born, and even more of them were just elementary school kids, So this is rarefied air, at least this stretch we're on right now. So you better enjoy it while you got. Offensively as a whole, what do you got?
It's an A. It's not an A+, because we had some drops. 2 of those in the first quarter, definitely first half, were on third downs, and it forced us to punt. Could have gotten first downs on both of them, definitely one of them, and one of them could have been a danger to get a huge chunk of yards. We had also the drop on the double pass. That was going to be a guaranteed touchdown pretty much to Michael Allen. So penalties, drops, it knocks them down from an A+ to an A. That's how much you have to nitpick. You mentioned it earlier. offensive pass interference on Toby Payne, and had an illegal formation, took a touchdown off the board. We ended up still getting the touchdown on the next play, but you can't have those things, right? In a much closer game, that, taking points off the board, a touchdown off the board, it's big. So they do get dinged a little bit, but it takes that much to drop them down to an A from an A+. Otherwise, amazing performance.
I agree. I think this is an A performance too, and I don't care if it's a close game or not. Anytime a penalty takes points off the board, that's going to have to ding you a little bit. I mean, I don't care if it's a 60-3 game at that point. It's just you have to be able to maintain focus, composure, and I'm not saying it was something egregious, but anytime you're in a blowout win, it's easy to just start running through the motions because why? And again, I'm not saying that's what happened here, but we did have penalties that took points off of the board, and in any game, that's a big deal. And so if that's what it takes to get you from A+ down to an A, I'll take it. That's way better than talking about, a couple of turnovers that we really had to overcome and things like. I will take these nitpicky things, and I think every fan in the fan base would rather be talking about nitpicky shit than the big stuff that's shooting you in the foot. All right, now here we go. Big bounce back game for this Herd defense. They held Old Dominion far below many of their season averages and stifled's not really the fair term. Held in check a very, very, very potent rushing offense on a per carry standpoint. What do you got for this defense?
This is even more nitpicky. I have an A instead of an A+ on this, and we already talked about that bad angle missed tackle. But they also were burned over the top a few times, and it was just because of overthrows that they did not get touchdowns. One was a drop on a quick slant at the goal line that would have been a touchdown, but a couple were over the top plays, and I mean, wide open. They had 3 steps on our defensive backs. So that gets them down to an A from an A+. But when you talk about the turnovers, including a pick 6, for the second game in a row, we have a defensive pick 6 score. Holding Colton Joseph, who came into this game as one of the scariest air and ground quarterbacks in the country, it is so dangerously close to an A+, and I have to nitpick. But think of how much different that game would have been if he throws 3 early touchdowns in the first half, including the one that he had already gotten. I mean, you're looking at that could have been 28 points that they had at halftime. We only had 24, so I have to ding them a little bit.
Well, I mean, you still give up
439.
24 points and 400 plus yards. A lot of those yards come in the fourth quarter, it feels like. When, you've got the game. It's 48-10, and so this is one where the stats really don't tell the whole story. I tried to go back and figure it out. I just didn't have the patience to sit there and add yard for yard and what did Joseph have at the start of that first drive of the 2 touchdown drives in the fourth quarter. But they were both pretty long drives, so you could probably add, I don't know, maybe 130, 140 yards, maybe more to their overall game total just on those last 2 drives. And a lot of those were him, passing the football and getting it down there and all that kind of stuff. So stats were padded just a little bit in garbage time. And I don't know that I can hold that against this defense. What I can tell them is what I saw against Louisiana versus what I saw against Old Dominion is well worth that letter grade. What for me eating crow and for me not having enough faith in what this team could do coming off a bye week. I'll give them their A+ because I think they deserve it.
I couldn't argue with that.
I cannot knock our 1s for what the 2s and some of the 3s did late in the game when they're just getting game time rep.
Yeah. No, mine was more like it wasn't because of great defensive play that we didn't give those almost gimme touchdowns. It's because the quarterback overthrew them. That's why I dinged them. But without getting into Colton Joseph, real easy. Both of those drives, it's 75 yards and 80 yards. So
There
that's
you go.
155 yards, not all from Colton Joseph, of course, but 155 of the 439 was those last two drives.
Yeah. So what's that drive? So what'd they have?
It's more than a third of their
Right.
overall yards. 155 out of 439.
So that puts them, I mean, you're going to get some yards, but let's say that puts the total under 300. You're at 284 on the before those two long drives. You're going to get some yards, but at that point, you said 155 out of 420, whatever,
439.
Right? 439.
9 minus 155. Oh, 284. Yeah, you're right.
284. So even if it's half of that, you're still just over 300 and some yards, and that looks a whole lot better. Yeah. But again, I'm not being nitpicky. Our ones did a phenomenal job, and that's what carries a lot of the weight for me in this one, because they're the ones that let us down the most against Louisiana.
And listen, when we're talking about like being nitpicky, and I'm saying I am, they're still getting a daggone A. And if you're getting an A on your offense and an A on your defense, man, you had a great game, right?
Yeah, I know. Anytime I had a test, I wasn't pissed to not get an A+ if I still got an A. All right, move along. Special teams. What do you got for the special teams play this week?
A+. I mean, the only thing you can say is we missed a 51-yard field goal a little bit to the left.
Yeah.
Everything else, you get two different punt. Punt, muff. One hit a guy. It wasn't like it was a missed catch, but two punt recoveries. Punt fumble recoveries. And it's just, you hit a 46-yarder and you hit a chip shot, but you get two field goals in there. And again, you missed a 51, 52-yard or whatever it was. Really, really good performance by special teams.
Yeah, unbelievably great performance. The only other thing that really stands out to me is that Nathan Totten's average was down below 40 in this game, but I think that has to do more with the way the Herd was moving the football, and he really didn't need to have to crush the hell out of the ball to keep that average up.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I thought I had a sneeze on deck there. But otherwise, you didn't have to do anything in the punt return game. You didn't have an opportunity to do anything in the kick return game. Mm-hmm. So it boiled down to place kicking, punting, and then two massive plays on punt coverage. So A+, no doubt. Coaches, what do you got? Now, this is what I want to set you up. I want to tee it up a little bit here.
All right, go ahead.
Because in years past, dating back to the Snyder era, Holiday era, and even the Huff era, we've seen Marshall teams come out flat as hell coming off of a bye week and really lay an egg in games that they needed. And we thought during our season previews or looking at the schedule even before we were a show, you think, okay, this is going to be a big game. We're going to get them after a bye. This will be good. And the team comes out flat and lays an egg and doesn't do that. They didn't do that this time. And I got to give credit to the coaching staff because of that. And Tony Gibson's been forthright the whole season about when things go wrong, he takes ownership of it and he says, we're going to get it right. And then they do things to get it right. He doesn't just come out there week after week and say, well, we're working on that. We're working on that.
Yeah.
So what do you got this week for the coaches?
A+. Not only everything that you said, which I was going to bring up, this is coming off a bye week, and you can tell that they worked on a lot of different things on that bye week. But the big thing for me is, it was confirmed by Tony Gibson in his post-game presser that he called the defensive plays. And, he wasn't one of the premier defensive coordinators for more than a decade, a couple decades close to it, for a reason. He was a good guy and always thought of as being an excellent defensive coordinator. So the experience of him doing that, calling the plays, I think that you have to give some of that credit to that. But yeah, prepping these players for this game probably couldn't have been any better when you look top to bottom how we performed. 48-10, halfway through the fourth quarter. A+. I don't know what they could have done really any better besides we still had a couple of penalties, 8 for 70, and a couple of those were pass interference and things like that. But A+, man, A+.
A+ for the coaching staff. And you're right about the point you make about Tony Gibson, right? If he's going to be calling the defensive plays now, you can tell that it looked a little bit different. And this is not really an indictment of Shannon Morrison, but the 3-3-5 is Tony Gibson's bread and butter.
It is.
There may not be a defensive coach in the country that knows its nuances better than him. And I'm sure that it was really tough to watch a defensive scheme and style that he knows can be so effective not be living up to its potential over the past several weeks. And I'm not saying it won't ever get exposed by certain teams again, because it inevitably will. Teams always have an off week, but to have this big of a turnaround against a Louisiana team that had seemingly a third of their roster injured, and then you do great against the starting quarterback so that you knock him out of the game, and in comes the third string quarterback, and then he lights you up. You go from that to this, coming in and playing against one of the premier quarterbacks in the Sun Belt this season to this point, and you effectively shut him down. And I think that just shows the expertise. It shows the level of nuance that Coach Gibson has with this defense, his ability to get the absolute most out of his guys, the ability to get the right guys in the right spots at the right times. I mean, hey, man, obviously we didn't believe it coming into this game. We didn't think it was going to happen. I won't say we didn't believe it, but we didn't see 48-10 coming or 48-24 coming.
Otherwise, we would have said it during the preview show.
Otherwise, I would have felt great about saying that.
I would say, too, that Tony Gibson's 3-3-5 is different than other people's 3-3-5. ODU ran on 3-3-5 yesterday. That's their base defense. And I think that it's different because each 3-3-5, the coordinator or architect of it has their own fingerprints on it. So, yeah, Tony Gibson knows the 3-3-5 better than anybody, but Tony Gibson knows Tony Gibson's 3-3-5 better than anybody.
That's right.
Shannon Morrison, it's his first year as a coordinator. Go back to any guy that it's their first year as a coordinator, and you may see some growth that they have to do, from that time. That's why coordinators get a lot better the further they are. It's not usually that they come out real hot and then they get bad, A coordinator is going to take a little bit of time, and Gibson made some changes and tweaks and things here that now you've got Shannon learning under him, not only all what he has, but on a game-to-game basis in live game now too, so he's picking up some stuff. So I think it's a great move. It obviously showed what I feel. It showed immediate dividends. I'm going to say not just the performance. I mean, they could have done that with Shannon calling the plays. I don't know. You can't say, but I think that it had to have played a big part as well.
Yeah. I think it's obvious that it played a big part. And if this is what you can expect defensively from the Herd, I saw somebody tweet yesterday, like during the game or just after the game or something, and it wasn't a Marshall fan. I can't remember who it was, but they said, "Oh gosh, Marshall has found an offense," and I'm thinking, you're not watching Marshall because we found this offense several weeks ago, and there were signs of it coming to fruition several weeks ago. So the offense has not been lost. What we needed to find was a defense that was consistent. And we've seen it in spurts and we've seen it in games, but we haven't seen it from game to game to game, and we still haven't seen it game to game. But if this is what we have to look forward to for homecoming, you're right. Look out. This was a great effort, A+ up and down the board. Shout out to Jackson White and the special teams for killing it. Shout out to the whole defensive staff, and this Rod Smith offense is just as advertised to this point. It's pretty freaking awesome to be watching this.
Hey, that other thing on the 2 punt recoveries that we got, it was nearly 3 because they muffed the very first chance that they got after we punted from the opening drive. He muffed it. He just happened to, nobody was around, and it bounced right to him when he hit the dirt. And it came close to them having 3 muff punts.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. All right. What do you got for the fans in this one?
I got a B, and it's kind of split. So if you take the people that were there, it's a way A+ infinity. There were only 23,000, so I'm like, you need to have more fans show up. right? Can't ask for better weather. So you can't say that it was weather. I know that there was homecoming. A mutual friend of ours and a lot more had homecoming that they had to get their kids to and stuff like that. So I understand that. But that's every season. That's every weekend you can say, well, I've got this going on. Well, I've got that going on. Well, I've got this going on. That person that I'm talking about that's a mutual still came to the game and then just had to leave early to go do the homecoming thing with their kid. So there were probably almost 5,000 fans that chose not to come to the game. And that to me is unacceptable. I know things happen, but we have got to get our attendance up and help make this crowd a weapon, that 12th man. And man, who cares if we lost the previous week? You don't give up on your team. You just come to the game. And the other little part of this too is I saw a lot of fans doing more than heckling online to where it's getting like mean just for the sake of being mean. That was both before the game and way dialed up after the game. Hedge your bets a little bit, and then when you get a blowout win, then just go all in. Brother, you wasn't on the field, so lay off the other fans that just happen to be a fan like you. You'd get pissed off if Louisiana fans were living in your inbox and mention the whole time, after they beat us. So just show some class. We're known for our hospitality, and we're known for our hospitality in person, and acting like, I'll just say it, WVU fans is not a good look for Marshall University. Yeah. If you win with class, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. First is, I think the fans that's a fair. I would go right around a B as well. I think that you probably did homecoming stuff aside, high school stuff, that kind of stuff aside. I think you had probably a fair amount of fans that were like, you know what? They just got the horrible loss against Louisiana. Like, we'll see. Yeah. We'll see. If they get beat in this one, probably won't go back, but if they win this one, I'll go to homecoming. So I think you had a little bit of that one.
Sure.
And then now you get this big win. I think you're going to probably see an uptick, not only because it's homecoming. I think you might see an uptick versus what you would normally get as an uptick for homecoming. So maybe you crest over that 26,000 for next week, and we'll see. 23,515, while that's disappointing to us as fans who know what can happen consistently week to week, I still think it's pretty good. Because I think we're spoiled to a certain degree when you think that, like, we're used to seeing 22, 23, 24,000 pretty consistently through the first 2/3 of the season. And then depending on what the record is, kind of dictates the final third when it gets cold and all that kind of stuff. But if you look around the country at some of the attendances at some of the quote unquote larger G5s, I think you would think Marshall's doing a pretty good job, Now I'm not saying we should just be okay with that. We should always want the stadium full, But they were. I'm okay with that, given what we saw against Louisiana. Now I expect to see a 20% uptick, if not more, against Texas State. As far as people chirping online, it sucks that that's the world we live in, and everybody thinks they're going to have that one cut down tweet that 1,000 people are going to hit like on. I think, dude, it's not going to, it isn't going to work that way. Just be like, talk a little smack, and move on.
Make it friendly though, because just trying to be edgy or trying to get your jokes in and things like that, and trying to get your online cred. We are getting a very bad reputation, Marshall fans, and it's coming from online. When people come to the game, they rave about how they're treated by people in person here at Marshall. And we pride ourselves on that, right? So why would we want to do damage to the university that we love by just being absolute dickbags to people?
I think you know the answer to that. It's not the same people. It's not the same people that are showing the legendary Herd hospitality in person that are online trying to be cool.
But I have seen some people trying to be that likable, welcoming person and also turning around online and being a just utter douche. Just stop doing it, man. You know?
Yeah, I got you. All right, overall for the weekend, what do you got?
A+ overall. I mean, you can't ask for anything better. I mean, unless we smoked them like 63-0 or something, you know. Great tailgate, great guests at the tailgate. Just an epic day for an epic weekend. I tell you, one thing that could have happened better is I could have not had a 4-foot fall off of my patio onto a sidewalk and hit my head and nearly broke my arm. But other than that, pretty daggone epic.
It was great.
Other than that, it's great.
I was taken down yesterday, man. I thought I was having like a big, I thought I'd caught what my wife had been having. And I guess I just caught a bug because I was laid out all day yesterday. And I was, kind of up and down and just chilling a little bit and monitor the game some and trying to, noticeably, I was not tweeting as much during the game. And I was just kind of limiting it to like the scoring plays I did. But luckily there were a lot of those. So, but I feel much better today. And so that just adds to the fact that it was a great weekend in spite of, right. You took a big fall and are still reeling from that. But I feel like I'm 1,000 times better today, but it's an overall A+ for the fact that the Herd needed to win and got a win. The Herd needed to get a win at home and got a win at home. And if this is the taste, the glimpse, the whatever of what this team can do for the remainder of the Sunbelt slate, you got to think they mean business. You gotta look at every game up and down the schedule and go, if they play like that, who beats them?
That's right.
James Madison has not been playing very well the past couple of weeks. This next week's game against Old Dominion might tell us a few things. There's nobody clear cut, far and away, just better than everybody else. Yeah. Everybody, as per the norm, is usually beatable in this conference. Any team can beat any other team. And, now Marshall can't be looked past after this one. And even if they lose some games, I don't think they're going to be able to just be discounted. So overall A+. They needed to win. They got to win. They took care of business at Joan C. Edwards Stadium. They bounced back defensively. It was awesome. Who's your offensive MVP for this one?
It's Rio-Wilson. The offense runs through him. He got 95 yards, and Sunday morning, that's when you want to follow Steve Cotton at Herd Cotton on Twitter. And he said that just coming shy of that 100 mark by Carlos Del Rio-Wilson, had he done that, that would have been 4 seasons in a row that a quarterback for Marshall playing against Old Dominion would have had more than 100 yards rushing.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that stat. That would have been a good one.
That would have been great, because how rare is it that a quarterback gets 100 rushing yards, and that would have been 4 straight times against Old Dominion that would have happened. So Del Rio-Wilson, 95 yards on the ground, accounts for 4 touchdowns, still no interceptions on the year, 219 through the air and 2 touchdowns. Just an amazing thing. Got to give a special honorable mention to his favorite target over the last 4 weeks, Floyd Lacey. The guy's still just electricity in a jersey. I mean, wow. 8 for 121 and a touchdown. And, I mean, that guy has just made a huge difference these last 4 games.
Tell you what sucks, and this is retrospect, and everybody knows about retrospect, but, what if CDRW had to been your starter in game 2? What if Floyd had to been taking snaps at game 2? This might be a totally different story we're talking about. Now, that's not what happened, and we're not playing shoulda, coulda, woulda. We are where we are right now, but I like where we are right now versus where we were 4 games ago, right? So I'm good. Right now, the offense is clicking. We found the formula to score points, which you always want to be able to do. Defensively, if they can just be consistent game in and game out, this team is a top Sun Belt Conference team. when they're not consistent, they absolutely are not a top Sunbelt team. Your offensive MVP this week is Carlos Del Rio Wilson, and it would not surprise me if he is your SBC Offensive Player of the Week.
I got to throw this out from Herd Cotton, too, about Floyd Lacey. And it's 3 games. I said 4 a minute ago. But his last 3 games, it's his 3rd straight game with more than 100 receiving yards. And I thought that would have been a little more prevalent.
Commonplace? Yeah.
It's not. Lacey is the first Marshall receiver to do so since Darius Watts had more than 100 against Hofstra, Tennessee, and Toledo early in the 2003 season. For 4 straight games, which Lacey has the chance to do, of 100-plus receiving yards, only happened 4 times in Marshall history. Darius Watts is the last with 4 in a row. That was in 2001. The only others with 4 straight are Mike Barber in 1986, Troy Brown in 1992, and, of course, Randy Moss, and he had 5 in 1997.
Yeah. Rarefied air, boys. We are witnessing some rare feats that have a chance to be matched or surpassed in the lore of herd football. Enjoy it. I mean, enjoy it while you can. I'll be the first one to get on there and bitch about plays not working and this, why the heck this. But at the end of the day, we're seeing a lot of good offensive football being played. And when you find yourself in conversations with names like Watts, Barber, Moss,
Brown,
you're doing some stuff, right? And same for CDRW. You find yourself in being compared with offenses ran by guys like Cato. You're really doing something right. So we're seeing some things offensively that we haven't seen in a very long time. I mean, damn, the last time the Herd had a string of 100-yard wide receiving games, the internet was like 8 years old. You know?
And here's something more about Del Rio Wilson. He came into this game leading in passing efficiency, and he still is in the country. And he's second to Ohio State, I think's QB in completion percentage. So just crazy efficient, and again, no interceptions yet on the season.
Yep, doing great. Do not want to jinx that. That's something that's definitely keeping the thing rolling. Defensively, is there any question who the defensive MVP is this week? Lay it on me.
Boogie Trotter. Boogie with the great pick 6, athletic pick 6. You go back and watch replays of that. He almost like hid from Colton Joseph behind the player, and you can see him starting to cheat back, reading exactly what was going to happen, makes it happen on his own, you know. And then the athletic part of this that we talked about coming out of the spring game and all off season when we were doing our rundowns, breakdowns. He seems to have in his history a knack for let me find that end zone after he catches the ball. Then just going in and stripping that, causing that fumble. It wasn't the ball was already coming out. He reached in and like a man took it from the guy. And he also had that great open field tackle, one of a couple that he had. Amazing performance by Boogie.
Yeah, Boogie Trotter, hands down, the best all-around game for the Herd. 5 total tackles, 3 of those solo, 1 tackle for loss and interception, which was a 22-yard pick 6, forced fumble recovery, and a pass defended. And like you mentioned, of the 5 tackles, a great open field tackle that thwarted a huge gain, what would have been a huge gain. So not just good plays, very, very impactful plays. Hands down, your defensive MVP. If Boogie keeps it up, then Boogie's going to find himself on the list for a defensive MVP in the Sun Belt. I think I saw that he's amongst the tops in the nation in interceptions. He's got 4 this year. He's having a really great year. And let's not forget, we're halfway through the regular season. So that's not even if there's a SBC championship to be played or a bowl game to be played. Yeah, Boogie's having a great year, man. And he has a real knack for finding the football. He has a real knack for then flipping the field and gaining some yardage. The only thing is that you can even say about him is that he gets a little overly aggressive sometimes, and it might bite him from time to time. But I think I'd take the positives over those negatives most of the time anyway.
Yeah. And quick little reminder for anybody that did see it, and some knowledge dropping for someone that didn't. Boogie called it this week in an interview. He said, "I'm going to get my 4th interception this week." Now, he didn't say he was going to get a pick 6, but he said, "I'm going to get my 4th interception this week." He called it before he did it. And, you know, I'd also like to say right now that I picked, and you did too, Carlos Del Rio Wilson, but I picked Boogie. You had Braden Ward as your MVP. And I picked Boogie, and I said, this is one of those games where we're going to have to get a lot of turnovers. I wish we could play the tape right now. And that, you know, to win this game, that was going to be a big thing, even though it wasn't a key to victory to me. I said, you know, I'm picking Boogie because Boogie seems to get that sort of thing. You know, he seems to get those picks. So I'm not saying that I made this happen by any means. I'm saying that exactly one of the scenarios we thought might need to take place, Boogie just went out there and did it.
Yeah, he played like, I tweeted that he played like a man on a mission yesterday, and his mission was to create havoc and absolutely destroy any semblance of an offense that would come his way against Old Dominion. Great game by Boogie Trotter. Also, I might as well say, wouldn't surprise me if he wins a defensive MVP for the Sun Belt this week.
I think he will. I didn't look at all the other stats, but when you start reeling off all this stuff, you know, I know they usually don't say, you know, open field tackles, usually not something that they mention in there, but impact plays, you know, I mean, he had them.
Yeah, I mean, unless a guy had a 2 or 3 interception day or like a 15 tackle day in a win, usually it's a winning team. So that almost eliminates half of the conference right out of the gate, unless some guy just plays lights out. But Boogie's got a strong argument. Special teams, who'd you got?
I think that it's got to be the local kid, Porter. Man, you know, he was Johnny on the spot 2 different times, and when you go back and see the one that hit the guy, I mean, he was watching. He could have ran right on past it, but he was watching that guy, and as soon as it hit, he dove and recovered that ball, and then he was right there for the other one on the muff punt. 2 different fumble recoveries when you're playing nothing but special teams. He might have gotten in there at the end of the game at linebacker, but usually his job is special teams. How could you have a better game than what he did for doing his job? Man.
I don't know. It got to be the first time in the history of our show that a special teams MVP comes from a punt coverage guy. But here we are. It's Zane Porter without a doubt. Appreciate the points that Lorcan Quinn put up. Appreciate the punting that Nathan Totten did for the Herd. But Zane Porter led the charge to 2 fumble recoveries, which led 2 points for the Herd that put this game even further out of reach through the middle part of that game. Holy moly. Congratulations to Zane Porter. Final words in this one.
Yeah, Herd Cotton had another one. I mean, if this isn't your weekly reminder to go follow Steve Cotton on Twitter, Zane Porter recovered both of the ODU muff punts. He's the first Marshall man with 2 fumble recoveries in a game since offensive lineman Alex Millette recovered 2 in the 2020 Camellia Bowl against Buffalo.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah, and that was offensive fumbles.
Yeah.
All right, so final words on this one.
Great game. Shout out to the Monarchists and the ODU fans that came by the tailgate. Justice from the G5 Hive. Those guys, when I asked them a couple of weeks ago, like, what are some of the things that you're wanting to do here so I can make sure that we make that happen for you? The very first thing they said is, I want to visit the memorials. And they did. And as soon as they got to town, got unpacked and everything, that's where I took them. That's where they wanted to go. We went to the Spring Hill Cemetery Memorial, and they were asking questions. They were just humbled by the entire thing, and they just wanted to go pay their respects to what makes Marshall Marshall. And they said, we want to go to the one on campus. So they made sure yesterday to walk around campus and go to the fountain and things like that. So they could not have been more respectful to the tradition and history of Marshall. And they were just blown away by that and by the fans, the hospitality and everything. But they invited over a lot of the player parents that are usually tailgating with them down there. They said, "Hey, here's where it's at." They dropped a pin. Those people came over. They could not have been nicer. They were all talking about everything. We exchanged some food and some beverages and some stories and things like that, and just an absolute great crew to be there. So I just wanted to give them another big shout out and a pat on the back for being very good fans. How easy would it have been to go get a bad loss and them just to be sour? But they all came back out and were friendly and chatty and congratulatory to all of us.
Yeah, well, I mean, it goes beyond the actual game of football for what we do a lot. I mean, we're fortunate enough to meet a lot of people and be able to be a landing spot for people to really get a taste of Huntington and enjoy the Marshall game day experience if it's their first one or if they're a repeat visitor to Huntington. So it's really cool. But man, this is kind of what it's all about. And I talk a little crap online and I tweet some things during the game, but it's never personal. Like for example, that last touchdown by Rio-Wilson. It was a 4th down play, and it was a pass play, and he decided to keep it, and he ran it in. He made contact at the end zone, ran over a guy. So what do I tweet? CDRW said hit the weight room, right? Because he ran over a guy. Now, that's a little tongue-in-cheek a lot of times, but I still enjoy being able to share a tailgate space with opposing fans. Right? It's nothing personal. It's just a little friendly smack talk. And it's also what we say. Before the game and after the game, we'll be best friends. But during the game, no. Like, we've got a mission to accomplish, and that's part of the mission is a little, positive reinforcement to our guys while also tossing a little shade at your guys. That's all in good fun. But anyway, it was great that Old Dominion player parents and Old Dominion fans came over to our tailgate. The next time you're in Huntington, you are free to do the same thing. Please come over next week. If there are any Texas State fans that are coming to the game, you are absolutely welcome to the ThunderCast tailgate. It is an awesome place to just come and hang, and you're right there under the video board. You can't miss it. It's a great time. The raffle, I got to say, went extremely well. I want to thank every single Herd fan that made a donation to the Herd Cheer Championship Fund.
Yeah.
That was really, really awesome. We asked you guys if you would help, and many of you stepped up and helped. So from me personally and from us at the ThunderCast, we want to say thank you. I know that Herd Cheer really appreciated the support that they got these past few weeks, and that will go obviously 100% to Herd Cheer as it is their championship fund, and you made a difference to Marshall Cheerleading. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I should have said this earlier, but let me give a transparent update on that for everyone. We raised $450 for the cheerleaders, and what happened is we had one fan kind of late in the game put in $100, did 4 different $25 donations. And he stopped by the tailgate and he said, "Look, I'm probably not going to use it if I did win or whatever. I just want to make sure I contribute." So he was thankful for the guy that donated him, Greg Bunner, and also thankful for us and everyone else that made it happen. And then after the drawing was already over, I'm not going to mention this person's name either. They said, "Hey, I want to contribute." And I was like, "Oh, the drawing's already taken place." And they said, "Yeah, it doesn't matter. I wouldn't be able to use them anyway. Here's $50. So another 50 after we had already given the thing away. So we now have to make that donation on that behalf, do it online or go give the cash over and put it in that person's name. But $450 to the cheerleaders. And I told a bunch of people that $450 to the cheerleader championship fund is much more appreciated than, say, $450 to the football fund, because football always gets
it's equally appreciated. It's just that money goes so much farther.
So much further. Yeah. I mean, because their budget is so much lower and it's needed for things like this. So sincerely to everyone that made any kind of donation, and sincerely to Greg Bunner, the fan that made this happen, came up with the idea, had the desire to donate those tickets. It was just an amazing thing. And just to announce it here, it's been seen, but just in case you haven't, Jill Jackson was the winner of that. I have already given her the tickets. She came by the tailgate. So she has the deck passes and the parking pass. So just wanted to announce that as well. Other than that, KD, I'm done.
Oh, well, I'd like to say that if there are any other Dutch Miller deck pass holders that find themselves not going to use their tickets for a particular game, it would be cool if we could continue to do this and help raise money for certain sports championship funds, because fans really like that. They obviously this Dutch Miller deck pass raffle went really, really well, and it's something that I think the average fan would like to experience at least once. So I would like to say that if you are not going to use your passes and you know that 3 weeks from now I'm not going to be at this game, consider letting us try to raise some money for a Herd Athletics team to put those to use for a really good cause. But this one went really well. Congratulations to Jill. Thank you to everybody that took part in the raffle. The last thing I'm going to say is next week it is freaking homecoming. The Herd needs to go back to back at home. Texas State is coming into town. If there has been a more vocal fan base about their team over the past couple of years, I'd like to know who it is, because I think Texas State is going to get the point in the Bobus Cup for that too. But I'd really like to get a win over those guys and their Pac-12 selves. So pack the house at the Joan. The guys put on a show for you this week. Do your part and show them that you appreciated that by getting your ass in a seat, buy a ticket, go to the game, and fill the place for homecoming. Let's see if we can go back to back at home. We really need to gain some momentum here. This will be another excellent opportunity to get a little respect on the Herd name again. So with that, Russ, I got nothing else. Take us out of here.
Whether you see us at the vet, whether you see us at the cam, or whether you see us at homecoming, where we're going to be making sure that we're doing our part. You see us in the C lot, we're going to be saying, go Herd.
Go Herd. It's the Thundercast. We'll see you in a couple days. Well, probably 3 or 4 days for this homecoming preview. Later.